What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. What exactly am I going to be speaking about in our today's video? Well, first thing first, this is a very, very, very important topic that I'm speaking about. This is very occult. This is very hidden. There are not a lot of people that fully understand this concept that I'm about to be going into today. And this becomes so important to know within yourself so that you can actually understand why you're doing what it is that you're doing when it comes to healing your own trauma. So what am I speaking about? I'm going to be speaking about why it is so important that you start actually healing your past traumas. Why are we actually wanting to do this? Why do we go through this challenging process, this really uncomfortable process? What are some of the main key reasons why this becomes so important, rather than putting it off to the side or prolonging it or pretending like this doesn't even matter? This is what I'm going to be discussing in this today's video. I highly recommend you stay tuned. I'll see you on the other side. Let me first start with introducing myself just in case you don't know who I am. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I'm a professional occultist. I'm fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. I'm studied when it comes to planetary energies in association with astrology. And I'm also studied when it comes to trauma and the relationship to the nervous system. All right, so let's go into it. Why does it become so absolutely necessary for us to start becoming aware that we need to begin healing our past traumas? How come there are so many people on our planet today that are not taking this seriously, that are putting it on the back burner, and they act like it's not something that really means anything, honestly? Why are there some people that can live their life and not heal their trauma or not go through that deep integration process, and yet their lives seem like they're decent, or maybe they're getting by and it is what it is? Whereas there are other people that are really walking this path and they have a strong inkling of knowing that it's very important that they do this type of work. Why are there two different groups of people here? Why are there people not healing their trauma? And what are some of the consequences to not going through that healing process or not going through this integration process? This is what I'm discussing. So definitely make sure, this is a video that is absolutely worth taking notes down if you have the opportunity. If you have a pen, if you have a notebook, I highly encourage you to take down some notes for this content. This is going to be very valuable information. All right, so first thing first, the reason why most people, a large majority of people, are not going through this integration healing phase with their own past traumas is because they simply just are not educated. They don't even know that they're operating unconsciously because of their traumas. That's just the ultimate reality to it. And that there's a lot of layers of distraction that are put onto a lot of people's consciousness that really prevents them from digging deep and realizing, wait a minute, I have the power to literally be my true self and live a life that's actually satisfying. A life where I actually love myself and I experience love in the world around me. A life where I actually have freedom within myself and in the world. All right, so that's the main reason why most people are not doing the deeper integration work. It takes a certain type of person with a certain type of intention in order to sort of set the stage for the awareness to recognize, wow, you know what, I am operating unconsciously because of past events that have taken place that have hurt me and caused me to freeze negative emotions into my nervous system. It really does take a certain type of person with an intention to start getting to that awareness. And usually it's some really tough situations that leads a person down that path. So that's why there's typically fewer of us that are doing this type of work than compared to the mass collective. And it is what it is. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is just how evolution functions. You know, not everyone is ready to do this deeper integration work, and that is completely okay. So let's go into it. What are some of the reasons, though, if you're starting to become conscious of this stuff and you're still kind of in a phase where maybe you're playing games with yourself, where you're like, well, I'm aware of it, but I don't really take it that seriously. I don't think it's that important. But then another part of me says, you know what, it is important. I can tell how important this probably is. I'm not really sure what to believe. If you're that type of person that's kind of like on the fence, or you're in that space where you're not 100% sure, this video is going to be extremely eye-opening for you. All right. And if you're someone who is aware and you are starting to do this work, this is going to help give some further education as to why we do this integration. Why is it so absolutely necessary? What happens to us if we don't do this work? All right. So here are some truths I'm going to come right out the gate with. One of the biggest secrets when it comes to dealing with past unhealed trauma and the negative emotions that are generated from that past unhealed trauma is that if we do not heal that negative emotion by allowing ourselves to feel it, it will stay in our nervous system until the day that we die. It will literally stay in our bodies until we go through the feeling process to bring it back to the surface, process it by feeling it, and then turning it into something else eventually. It will literally stay in our nervous system until the day that we die, which means it will inherently be controlling us unconsciously. It will cause us to say things. It will cause us to think things. It will cause us to literally do things, create relationships unconsciously on a level that we are actually not conscious of, but it is based out of that repressed negative emotion projecting outwards, manifesting external experiences based on that repressed emotion. And these are going to manifest in negative cycles, drug abuse, toxic relationships, toxic environments, doing things that say to yourself, you don't love yourself, like working a job and saying, oh, this is my this is what I'm, I guess I'm just going to be here for the next 10 years, when really, that's not how you feel. You're capable of much more. This is what happens. So this is one of the big secrets to this, this principle here, is that when we're dealing with a repressed negative emotion, let's say for this example, let's use fear. If fear is an emotion that we've had to repress in our nervous system because we went through something at 5 years old that just struck fear into our body and we didn't even know how to process it at that young age. So what we did is we stored it and froze it in our body, and then we became something else in order to survive that fear, right? If this took place in our life, this fear is now in our nervous system even as we're getting older. So we're a little kid when it happens, and then we get into our adult years, and we're still dealing with this fear that is literally existing inside of our body. This is the thing that most people don't know. When you're dealing with unhealed, repressed emotions that are from the trauma, they are bound to recreate life experiences that are going to regenerate the same repressed emotion that you're storing inside of your body, that you're storing inside of your nervous system. So the reason why it becomes so important to actually start healing from your trauma is because you are on automatic, unconsciously going to create situations that lead you to a state of fear. If that's your repressed emotion, that is what you're creating unconsciously. Unconsciously, you don't know this is what's happening. It is naturally taking place. So you are literally creating experiences, relationships, habits, routines, mindsets that are designed to generate more fear, all because of this repressed negative emotion in your nervous system that you are not processing by feeling. This is why it becomes so fucking important to become aware and have the education of past unhealed trauma and the necessity to actually start feeling some of those repressed emotions so that we don't keep creating experiences that are destined to generate that same negative emotion. Think about that right now. I literally want you to go into depth within your own mind's eye with all the people that you've come into contact with, let's say in the past 24 hours. I'm going to take a strong guess that the majority of people that you've connected with in the past 24 hours are dealing with repressed negative emotions that they are not actively working on processing out, working on feeling and healing. Therefore, these people are creating those same negative emotions in their external realities over and over and over and over again. And this loop will continue to go on for the rest of the person's life until they start realizing they need to start feeling what some of these energies are inside of their body. And there are processes that have to come into place in order to set the stage for someone to have a safety net and a proper foundation to really go through that healing process. And that's what I do, and that's what I offer for anyone that is ready to do that work. And that's a part of my mentorship. So if this resonates with you, and if you're someone who wants to start this process, the second link in the YouTube description is where you can book a mentorship with me, and we can go into it. But most importantly, with this education, this is something that you can take and you can literally have in your tool belt in life to always have this awareness that the reality is most people are not healing their past traumas, and most people are generating unconscious life experiences in a cyclical way that are just regenerating the most prominent negative emotion that that person has stored in their nervous system. So we see a lot of people generating experiences that produce fear, sadness, and anger. These are three of some of the most common emotions that we repress, and when we don't heal, we are constantly regenerating that. So how many times have you found yourself maybe getting into relationships that just end and end and end in the same emotion of sadness? How many times do you find yourself starting new jobs, new businesses, new directions in life, but it's coming from a place of purely running away rather than allowing yourself to start feeling and processing and working with? So you're creating these businesses, you're creating these new directions in life, but they always end in fear. Something happens, you can't follow through, it makes you afraid, and then you give up. And it happens over and over and over again. You just keep hitting this deadline. You keep hitting this blockade. What is happening there? The person is regenerating a life experience based on the repressed negative emotion that is in their body from their past unhealed trauma. And they are going to continue regenerating that same negative emotion until they start healing that trauma. This is why it is so important to heal our traumas. This is literally the most important thing to do. This is like the root work, the real root work. You cannot do anything else. You cannot apply the mindset. You cannot apply the ancient sacred occult technology to, forge your creations of reality by visualization and meditations until we start working at this root level and then work our way up. All right, there's a real sequence and a real process to this, and we need to make sure we're aware of this and we're using it properly. If you don't want to, by all means, go ahead and experiment for yourself, but you're going to learn this in a very significant way at some point in time as you keep cycling. You will find yourself in these cycles if you're not doing this root work. And that just is what it is. I've experienced it myself. I see it happen in so many other people. All the people that I work with, they've experienced it. That's why they work with me, so that we can stop experiencing that recreation of negative emotions. Now, I really want you to listen to this. Okay, so this is something that is going to open your perspective as well. All right? Why is it that you do what you do in the first place? So I want you to think within yourself, like, what is it that you're doing and why are you doing it? So why do you wake up every single morning and work hard? Why do you wake up every single morning and try to better yourself? Why do you wake up every single morning and you go to your job that you don't really like going to, but you know you kind of have to? Like, I really want you to get into the why behind all of these things. Why are you actually doing this? Why are you working so hard to be successful? Like, why? And the true answer behind this big why for all of you really comes down to an emotional state. So what this means is that the reason why you've been working so hard, the reason why you're trying to better yourself and you're trying to gain knowledge and more awareness so that you can better navigate your life, the reason why you're doing all of these different things is because you're looking for an emotional state. You're looking to embody an emotional state of feeling good. I really want you to let this soak in right now. This is so important to understand. You're looking for an emotional state to actually feel good. You're not looking for the external result necessarily. So on the surface, it looks like, oh, I'm working hard so that I can get a house, so that I can live in a home. I'm working hard so that I can drive my dream car. I'm working hard so that I can create a family. I'm working hard so that I can, not be what my parents thought I was going to be and be better than them, right? I'm working hard so that I can live on the beach and live in a beautiful environment and just, everything's perfect. It's like all of these things sound good and they can be nice. That's really cool. And they're beautiful things. Don't get me wrong. These are absolutely beautiful things for sure. And it's a part of the life experience. But we're doing these things or we're working towards these things because underneath of that surface layer, we're looking for an emotional state of feeling good. So when you finally manifest the business that you've always wanted to create and that you've worked so hard to build, you did it so that you could feel good. And what are some of those feelings of feeling good that you're actually looking for? We can get a little bit more nuanced with this or a little bit more in depth with this. Are you looking for freedom? Are you looking for satisfaction? Are you looking for happiness, excitement, joy? Right? We're looking for an emotional state, not just the surface level of the actual physical business. So for us to kind of reverse engineer this process and realize, wow, as I'm developing and as I'm working so hard on myself, the reason why I'm actually doing this is because I'm looking for an emotional state that I can embody as often as I possibly can. If we're coming from this space, then we are now working on a root level, and we're not just working on the surface level where it's like, oh, I wake up every single morning, I bust my ass because I'm manifesting a home. I'm manifesting living in my own house, and I'm going to work so hard until I can get to that point. And I'm going to wake up every single morning. I'm going to discipline myself. I'm going to cut people off. I'm going to put energy into it, and I'm going to push, and I'm going to live in that house. And this can sound good, especially when it comes to the mindset community where they're like, yes, work hard, discipline, focus, work, grind. But if the person is unaware that what they're actually working towards is not just the physical manifestation or not just the physical result, but actually an emotional state underneath, then what happens is people can manifest and oftentimes do manifest the physical results they're looking for because that is the power of the mind itself. And when they get the results, so let's say the person manifests the house they work so hard to get to, but then underneath, since they weren't doing the real integration, they're not feeling the freedom that they actually were wanting the whole time. They have the physical home, they worked so fucking hard to get it, but they don't even feel free now that they have the home. So this becomes a very strange dynamic when the person finally manifests what it is that they thought they wanted. that they thought was going to generate the emotion that was going to make them happy. But since they were working backwards and they were focusing on the physical result rather than understanding the root work to get to the emotional state they wanted, they can often manifest the physical result and still have the underlying emotional state of anger, sadness, and fear. This is why we heal our trauma. We have to ask the question, why are we working so hard? Why are we doing this integration? Why are we getting in tune with the true self? Because we want to feel good. We're not doing this just so we can live in our own home. We're not doing this just so that we can run our own business. We're not doing this just so that we can have the perfect relationship on the outside. We're not doing this just so that we can live by the beach and ride on a jet ski all day and fish or do whatever you want to do. These things are fun, they're beautiful, they're amazing, but what if you create those things and you still underneath are sad, angry, and afraid? This is what so many people fall into when it comes to the mindset community, where people use their minds to manifest their realities. As I said just a couple steps earlier, the mind is very powerful. The mind has the ability to generate realities, and what you do put your time and energy into becomes a reality within time, with consistency. So we can easily generate realities, but still have underlying emotional states of anger, fear, and sadness, and not even enjoy the fruits of our labors. This is why there are so many quote-unquote successful people in America that are actually miserable under the surface. They literally do not feel good, even though they've manifested everything on the surface that they thought they wanted in order to feel good. There is no other type of work that is going to allow you to get to the space where you actually feel satisfied with where you are and who you are, other than the past trauma, repressed negative emotion, integration work. This is the type of work that is at that fundamental root level that sets the stage for us to, yes, have all these wonderful things in our life. Your own business, beautiful relationship, beautiful family, freedom, all these things, while actually feeling good with them, while actually loving yourself in the process, saying, I did it, and I know who I am, and I feel like I'm satisfied with how I got here. I feel content and I feel whole with what I've manifested and the power that I have, because I have the power inside of myself within my, or I should say grounded within my true self, as I have an authentic self-expression. So we really do want to know why we are doing what it is that we're doing. We are all truly working towards our goals, working towards our manifestations, because we're looking for an underlying emotional state. So how about, rather than grinding and pushing to get that manifestation to happen, how about, rather than doing all that to try to live that physical life, how about we start working on the underlying emotional energies so that we can start accessing that emotional state within ourselves by aligning with who we actually are, aligning with the true self, so that naturally, as we start feeling those emotions of freedom, love, happiness, joy, satisfaction from those emotional energies, this becomes one of the deepest layers of creation itself. This literally becomes one of the deepest layers of manifestation. So as we're doing that work, feeling better about who we are by doing the hard work, starting with feeling our negative emotions and processing them, we are generating a reality that is completely authentic to who we are, and we're slowly and naturally and organically shifting into that reality where, yes, on the external, we have all the nice things. We have exactly what we want to feel good, but internally, most importantly, we actually feel good. We're not living in these realities with all the nice things and all the flashy bells and whistles, miserable, where it's like, wow, I spent so much time creating all this and getting here, and I still feel like shit. And see, so many people fall into that. And the hardest part about this realization is that usually what happens is the person can't even accept it. They can't accept the fact that I just worked this hard and I suffered this much to still not feel what I was looking for. So they often have to try to trick themselves mentally and then find something else to manifest externally or on the surface level that is going to be the next thing that's going to make them feel good. So this literally just becomes another loop or another cycle that the person falls into, where they're just chasing after physical results, chasing after physical manifestation, hoping that the one thing eventually makes them feel good enough to settle down and to rest, to literally be at rest, and to literally say, you know what, I love myself. I love that I did this. I'm satisfied with myself. But the only problem is, because they're not doing the real deeper inner work, they're never going to get to that state. So they're going to keep manifesting. And a lot of times there's a lot of guys and girls that end up making a whole lot of money, and then they eventually seek someone like myself that starts doing this inner work process. And at that point, the good thing is they have a lot of money to invest in their self-development. There is a benefit to that. There's a bonus to that. But they didn't have to go through necessarily all that pain and suffering by going down that cycle, when they could have just started from the very beginning and realized, wow, you know what? If I start healing my past trauma and I start learning how to feel my emotions, then I can literally create the exact life that I want to live, and I can feel good with it in the process at the same time. Don't you want that? Don't you want a win-win situation here, ladies and gentlemen? Why wouldn't you want that? All right, I'm trying to communicate this in a way so that you can literally be open to it. Like, you're right. That sounds good. Like, why wouldn't I want that? I can get 2 for 1. So that is definitely what happens. And let me, here, I think one of the biggest values that people get from studying the type of stuff that I talk about is the fact that I like to relate a lot of these things back to my own personal life experience. And I share these things very openly because that's what going through these experiences is all about, to share it openly. I don't understand why someone would be too afraid to share that. I understand it based on trauma responses, but I don't understand if someone had this awareness, why they wouldn't allow themselves to share. So many people learn on such a deep level when you can be very vulnerable and also be very personal with what you've been through and what you learned from going through that experience. And as I said, this is what I've done throughout my YouTube channel, and I have seen viscerally how many people's lives have shifted by just studying what it is that I teach, because I'm teaching in a very unique and dynamic way. This is how I learned, by the way. And for those of you that don't know, I'm dyslexic. Okay, at a young age, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And, for those of you that don't know, the first paragraph that I ever wrote in my life, this was probably about 3rd grade or 2nd grade, I actually wrote the paragraph starting at the bottom right of the paper and started going left upwards. So, when you write paragraphs, you start in the upper left and then you go to the right and you work down. I did it the complete opposite way, and I was just doing it intuitively. And I had no idea. I was very serious. I thought that's how we did it. So I started in the bottom right and I started writing to the left and going upwards. That's how dyslexic I was. I've always thought outside of the box. I've always seen things outside of the way that most people naturally see things. And this has become an extreme gift that I've had because, obviously, I guess I understand human nature in a much more dynamic way, where I understand how people learn. I understand how people's nervous system needs to learn. And that is by sharing authentic real life experiences, not always just being super logical and super scientific. So let me share my experience with this topic at hand of manifesting things externally on the surface level, but not being happy with those manifestations. So this was back in, let's see, what was this? This was 2000, I would say generally this was like 2017. So I think this was like 6 years ago, or close to 6 years ago. This is before I was into the occult. So this is before I was like an active practicing occultist. And it was at this time where I was starting to shift into self-development. And the way that I originally started shifting into self-development was through pickup. Okay, so for those of you that don't know what pickup is, this was like back in the day when learning the psychology of a male between a female and how to pick up a woman. That's like what it was about. And during that time frame, once again, this was like 2017-ish, this was like very popular. This was something that was very big. And this is something that I just naturally gravitated towards, trying to more so learn about psychology, learn about how my mind works, and I think most importantly, understanding the feminine energy. That's really what I was in it for. I was trying to understand all these different dynamics and how the female worked, how the feminine energy functioned and in relation to the masculine. So I went down that path, and at that time, there was a lot of people that I was learning from in the pickup field, and they were very big on the techniques. They were very big on the lines. They were very big on the words that you say. They were very big on like the tone of how you're saying words. I just remember a lot of the stuff that I was learning at that time was very controlled based. It's like if I control the way that I'm communicating and I control the way that I'm projecting myself, if you will, then I can produce this response in a woman, or I can produce this response within another person that is naturally going to be attracted to me. So I can make myself look more attractive, or I can pull in this person's attention and you just, I guess, get the satisfaction out of that for knowing I have these tools and knowing that I can do these things. And I just remember that this is how these things were taught to me at that time when I was studying them on YouTube. And yes, I was learning a lot. This actually played a very significant role in my self-development process, and it actually ended up in the long run leading me to the occult. And I'll explain that in a little bit, just in just a little bit of time here, but let me go into it first. But now looking back, I can clearly see that a lot of the things that I was learning at the time were very control-oriented. They were like, we're controlling our behaviors. We're controlling, how we're projecting so that we're getting these, basically these controlled responses. So looking back, I don't like the teachings anymore. I don't resonate with them. I would never behave that way, and I would never act in that way in order to connect with another person, especially a woman, because based on the awareness that I have now, I don't need any of those things. I just am me as I learn how to integrate my true self, and that naturally attracts the right people, the right relationships, the right types of women to me in general. And I actually I'm much more successful with it with minimal effort. Like, I'm just being me, and I'm just putting me out there, and I'm just living my purpose. And now I attract women to me that are supposed to be in my life, and I don't even have to find them. I don't have to do anything. They just come to me. Whereas previously, the old teachings that I was learning back 6 years ago was I have to have this controlled behavior. I have to find the woman. I have to find a way to project myself so that they see me in this certain way. And then I have to try to hold on to their attention and get them to be attracted to me. And it was just too much control. And that was the old self-development pickup community back in that time frame. So for any of you, there may be some of you that resonate with this that, are around my age. I'm 27 years old right now. You may have gone through this process in your own way back in that time as well. Literally around that time frame, pickup was very popular. And especially as men, this was something that a lot of us may resonate with, because typically we tend to look into some of these things so we can understand the feminine energy a little bit more, and things in that nature. So Okay, so long story short, back in that time when I was studying those principles, I became a master at it. Like, I literally found a way to shift my consciousness in such a way that was it was like almost the perfect personality to attract women. But I knew as I was shifting my consciousness in that controlled way, I was not my true self. I knew it viscerally, I knew it intentionally, I knew it internally, I knew it intuitively. It was not who I truly am, but I knew because I studied so much and I gained the knowledge and I had the urge to want to do it, that I was able to literally shift my consciousness to become a being that is not my true self, but was very able to attract women. And I did it, and I literally got to a point where my entire reality shifted, where I was working at a job at this time and I was surrounded by women. The job that I worked at was called Tilted Kilt. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically like a Hooters. And I was like one of 3 guys that worked at that entire job. And I was surrounded by women, good-looking women, all day long. So my entire reality literally shifted to put me in an environment where I had nothing to do but practice on my pickup skills or practice with this shift of consciousness to attract women. And I did that. But guess what? I manifested literally everything that I wanted. I had half the women there that were interested in me. Couple of them I was hanging out with. Then on top of that, there was another girl that was in my neighborhood that I was basically dating without actually dating at the same time. So I was like literally seeing multiple women at the same time, living the life that I thought I wanted to live, with it actually manifest, like it actually took place, but realizing while I was in the midst of it, while I was in the lifestyle, I didn't feel good. I literally felt drained every single day. I felt exhausted because I knew I wasn't my true self. And it was almost like I was faking an image. It was like I was faking a personality in order to attract these women. And that didn't make me feel good internally. It made me feel like I couldn't have this last long term. And it even gave me a sensation of this may not even supposed to be happening. Like I feel like I'm controlling these experiences to such an extent that maybe they're not even supposed to be happening. And I started like, because my awareness is very open, I've always had a very wide awareness and I've always had a strong sense of self-awareness. I was aware of these things, even though I was kind of fighting against it. But I was that person that had literally spent a lot of time and energy creating that lifestyle and then actually manifested it and then realized when I had it all that I thought I wanted, it didn't make me happy. And I was exhausted. I felt like I was burning out every single day. I felt like I couldn't keep it up. And eventually I had to let go of that personality that I created. And with that, I had to let go of all those relationships that I had formed because they were created on the artificial personality that I had to create. So when I let go of that identity that I created, I naturally didn't feel like being in contact with those women that I was in contact with anymore. It was like my soul snapped back into its purpose and realized it was like I took a little side journey, or I took a little side quest, a little side experience to see what I was capable of, to see what I was able to do, and to ultimately learn the wisdom of not being my true self, manifesting everything I thought I wanted, but then realizing that's not what I actually wanted. What I actually was looking for was the big why, which is the emotional state. I was looking to feel good. All I wanted was to feel loved, and I wanted to love myself. And I became something else to create that, and I manifested everything externally, whereas the outside man or the outside person looking at me would have been like, dude, you've got everything. You must feel so good. You're the man for doing that. Like you're the shit. When really internally, I was exhausted. I felt fake. I didn't feel good at all. I felt terrible. And this was my experience when it comes to realizing from my own experience, manifesting things externally or manifesting things on that surface level to then generate that internal feeling of feeling good is not how it works. It works in reverse. We have to start the process of going in, first facing what doesn't feel good inside of our bodies, which is these repressed negative emotions connected to our past unhealed trauma. As we start feeling those repressed emotions, we start naturally healing that trauma, and then we transmute those negative emotions into positive ones, where then we start feeling good for the first time. As we start to feel good, now our life naturally starts shifting in such a way that we start creating beautiful things externally as well, because of the principle as within, as without, as without, as within. We feel good. We're creating a feel-good life. What feels good? What is an external manifestation of happiness, joy, freedom, love? Nice things, healthy environments, right? Things that you want to experience. And it's like you don't even have to try that hard to get these things, to manifest these things, because you are those emotions that those things naturally resonate with. Play that back. Make sure you're hearing what I'm saying. You don't have to work hard, grind hard, push so hard to manifest those nice things externally, because you are those nice things on an emotional level, and you're already in resonance with them, so they are naturally being attracted to you. They're coming to you. You just have to be you. You just have to continue feeling and healing. You just have to continue listening to your intuition and following where it takes you. If your intuition says, hey, you need to make a YouTube channel and you need to start putting out content where you talk about these types of things, you've got to follow that. If your intuition takes you into a space that you've never been in before and it's completely unknown to you, you've got to follow that. And you have to feel some of the fear that comes with stepping into the unknown. But guess what? Guess what could be on the other side of that unknown? Pure beauty. All right. And I'm a living example of someone who's experienced this cycle many times over in my personal life. It's the real deal. It really does take place. So I said all of this to give you an example of this principle of why we heal our trauma, how important it actually is, and why it's not something that you should discredit or something that you should just push off to the side as if it doesn't matter. Because, as I said, when we're not healing our trauma, we are naturally regenerating life experiences that are bound to end in that same emotional energy as that repressed negative emotion in our bodies from that trauma. It's only a matter of time. And that should scare you a little bit, because people on the surface can look like everything's all good for a little bit of time, right? You could even go years maybe, where things look really good on the surface. It looks like this guy's a businessman. He's got a family. He's crushing it. He's driving nice cars. He lives in a nice house. He's doing all this stuff. And give it a couple years longer, and then something happens, and it leaves that man or that person in a state where they are feeling sad, angry, or afraid. If that was the emotions in their nervous system that they weren't healing, that's what they're generating. And we are all products of this principle. We all fall into line with how this energy functions. So it becomes so valuable to recognize, wow, I can start being my true self now, and I can start living a life that feels good now. It's going to take time to start feeling good when we start diving into the nervous system and when we start allowing ourselves to feel. Originally, there's a lot of upheaval of uncomfortable energies, but as we work through that and we move through that, the journey's always like a roller coaster. We eventually get to new breakthroughs and other life experiences, and most importantly, states of being that are beyond what we could ever imagine. All right, so this is why I made this video. Now, I'm going to wrap it up here. This was definitely long enough, and I said everything that I needed to say. If you enjoyed this video, if you got value from it, come down here and hit the thumbs up button. Also, drop in the comment section and let me know how this spoke to you. Let me know how this content influenced you. Let me know what you learned from it. Let me know if you already knew some of these principles. Share your own experience with me in the comment section. If you've created things in your life, you manifested it, but underneath you were still sad and you were still angry or you were still afraid and you didn't feel good with what you created. And then you realized, wait a minute, I can't just keep creating physical things. I need to start going inwards and looking into how to actually feel better within myself. So please drop down in that comment section and let me know if you have any experience with this, and please be open enough to share that. I want to read over that. All right, hit the notification bell. Make sure you're getting notified whenever I post. You don't want to be missing out on that. Make sure you subscribe to my public YouTube channel because you don't want to be missing out on this content. Really, are you hearing this from anybody else? Do you know many other people that are talking about these types of root level truths and sharing very vulnerable and personal life experience so that you can understand as the listener? I don't know. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't really know that. I don't think I know anybody on YouTube that is sharing content in the way that I'm sharing content on these matters. So look into that. Subscribe, don't miss out. Okay. I also want to say this. If you have any family, friends, or social media platforms that you feel like need to hear this message, you have my full permission to share this content. Copy and paste the link of this video and send it out. I encourage you to spread this content, spread this information, all right? Especially if someone comes to mind when you heard me say that. Send it to them. They may need to hear this. This is transformative stuff here. Now, my intention is to spread my content like a wildfire. And this is going to help me build up my empire of universal mastery, which is continuously on a daily basis expanding, and expanding. All right, so welcome aboard. All right, with that being said, now we're going to drop down into that description in the YouTube description. Right there, you're going to see that first link at the top. You can't miss it. This is the Patreon. If you are continuously watching my YouTube channel and you're gaining value from it, if you're someone that's binge watching my channel right now, and you're one of those people that's like, wow, I'm absorbing so much from what you're teaching, my life is literally showing symbols and signs based on what you're talking about, and you're not yet a part of the Patreon, this is your call. This is the sign from the universe. It is time for you to invest in yourself, join my Patreon, and gain access to a wealth of occult knowledge and just knowledge in general of many things that are very important to better know yourself and to better understand how to connect with yourself and to understand the nature of the universe. All right. Everything that's on my Patreon is exclusive to the Patreon. It's not on my public YouTube channel. Content that's more advanced, more personal, and there's a lot of real life practices there. So I highly encourage you to check out the different tiers that are part of the Patreon. Tier number 3 and 4 gives you access to the vampire ritual that's performed on the 29th of every month. This is an actual ritual service that is designed to completely change your energetic structure to be what's called universe B dominant. In other words, what that simply means is the spin on your energy field really starts going in a counterclockwise fashion, a counterclockwise spiral, if you will. And what this does is it starts drawing the awareness in more. It starts pulling in. It's like a magnetic spin that is feminine in nature. It starts opening up those feminine energies within yourself so that you can start claiming your power back within yourself and start loving yourself more. If you found yourself being a doormat for people, giving your power away, this is a great opportunity to start claiming that back and starting to be more receptive to your unconscious, subconscious, so you can start feeling again. All right, this also gives these individuals an amazing opportunity to start undoing religious programming, where you start to see dark energy and chaos in the environment around you, not as evil, but you start to see it as what it actually is, which is just potential. You can start to energetically pick up on that and take it into your body, transmute it into what it is, which is power and evolutionary potential. So all of this is within tier number 3 or 4 of the Patreon. Now you're also gaining access to the advanced Atlantean crystal grid that I have right here, which is really advanced occult technology, which is projecting a constant torus field frequency in the grid for all the participants that are added to this grid. So if you're partaking in the vampire ritual, you are going to have your personal information placed in this grid, so you're getting a constant streamline of the energy from the grid itself, which has energy of protection from EMF frequencies, better cellular detoxification, channeling the feminine energy within yourself and in the universe, and ultimately aligning with your true self much more effectively by going through this integration process. All of this is accessible for tier 3 and tier number 4. I don't know anyone else on YouTube or the internet that is offering a service that is like this for the amount that I'm offering it for. It is subscription based, but the entry fee is absolutely nothing for the value that is offered with this. And there have been over 1,000 people that have already used this service, and I cannot tell you how many people have personally reached out to me and have let me know how their lives have shifted, funny enough, correspondingly, after receiving the service. Big shifts suddenly started to take place. So if this is something you resonate with, look into it. All of this is in the first link below. We're going to leave it there. Now, as we move into the second link below, this is a very important link as well. This is where you can join a mentorship with me. So really, this is going to be one of the most intimate processes that you can get yourself involved in. This is something that I am extremely passionate about. I take very seriously. When I'm working with someone, I understand that I'm working with a unique soul that needs unique guidance in order to better set themselves up for success. And I understand the necessity for creating that safety net and that foundation for success for when we start getting into the deeper levels of spiritual initiation or self-development in general. So I'm doing a handful of mentorships in this present moment right now. I've done over 10 of them. This is a fairly new service that I offer. If this is something you want to take advantage of, which is extremely fundamental, foundational, and important, look into it. Second link below. Go ahead and book your mentorship with me. Also in that second link, you can book a one-on-one call. So if you just want to get on a call with me and you want to kind of get a taste of what this mentorship could be like, or just simply communicate with me, maybe you have some questions you want to ask me, whatever it is, all of that in that second link is where you can book. I'm going to leave that there. Now also within that same second link below, you have an option to book a very unique tarot card reading from me. This is going to be a tarot card reading that I promise you have never received before. And the reason why is because I understand the Kabbalistic tree way more than the average person. So what I can do is I can pinpoint where you are on that tree. I can tell you what you're feeling, experiencing, and going through in the present moment, and then what to expect moving into your near and your long-term future. I go very deep into these cards and I explain everything you need to know as raw and authentically as I possibly can. No sugarcoating, all right? I've done well over 2,000 of these readings. I've been doing this for other people for about 4 years. I do a reading almost every single day. I get tons of valuable feedback. If you want to take advantage of it, that second link below is also where you can book the tarot card reading. I'm going to leave that there. Now, as we move into the third link below, this is where you can become a YouTube member. And as you're becoming a YouTube member, you are gaining access to a multitude of different benefits. But most importantly, you are gaining access to the Psychic Warfare Emoji Program. This is a sequence of emojis that I've designed myself that are based on real occult principles, and you can use them in a specific configuration. You link in the name of a target, and then you hit enter, and it actually causes psychic effects to the target of your choice. This is literally one of the most simple forms of using psychic warfare through the internet platform. And it's so simple to do. Now, this also becomes an amazing way to express healthy aggression, which is what we all need to find healthy ways to do when it comes to aggression, because when we repress that energy, there's a lot of negative consequences and side effects that come with that. So definitely consider what it is that I'm talking about here. All of this, once again, is in that third link below where you can gain access. There are over 2,000 posts where members have used the Psychic Warfare program. There are members in this moment using it now. I'm not even kidding you. If you want to use this for yourself, you can take advantage of it. That third link below, you click it, join at the top, and then you have access. With that being said, this is exactly where I'm gonna wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you very, very, very much. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.